Thank you for listening to this podcast from TRE, Talk Radio Europe, your voice in Spain and around the world. For more information, please visit tre.radio.
TRE in the afternoon. Presented by Hannah Murray.
Good afternoon. It's just gone 5:05. You are listening to Men Talk. With me in the studio today, Charlie Broom and Percy Rowland. Hello.
Good afternoon, Hannah.
Good afternoon. Thank you both for coming in. If you are listening at home and you'd like to get involved, you are more than welcome. Here's how.
To contact TRE, please call 952 78 4000. Email studio@tre.radio. Send us a WhatsApp on +34 645 99 67 95.
What a beautiful day, it's a wonderful life.
Okay, let's jump straight in. There's an article here with the headline, "Is 8 a.m. too early to cut the lawn on Sunday?" It says, "Has your Sunday morning lion been ruined by the intrusive drone of a neighbour's lawnmower? Then you are not alone. 7 out of 10 people say they've been annoyed by the whir of blades as they try to sleep, raising the question of how early is too early to power up the mower on a weekend morning." What do we think?
Oh, not for me. It'd be 9.
Yeah,
9 o'clock for me.
9 o'clock, you reckon?
Yeah, I think 8 is a bit too early. Percy,
you look like you're really thinking about this.
I live in a flat.
Any time is too early to start the lawnmower. No, you see, I live. I've got it worse. I live next to a golf course. Mm-hmm. And you know when they start mowing the lawn or the golf course?
Yeah.
5 a.m., 6 a.m.
No.
Yes. That is early. That is too early.
Yes, because they have to... no, it's understandable because they've got to be ready by the time they open the golf course, which usually... And in summer they start very early because people want to play early before it gets too hot. So they start sometimes, around 6. The maintenance guys start at 6.
Yeah, that's
now,
pretty
and we've had, I mean, from my community, we've had fights with the golf club because they actually, because the clubhouse is right next to our community, so they obviously start close to the clubhouse where they start working, which is around our building. So we all said, can't you go? You've got a huge golf course. Can't you start somewhere else and then come to our bit, like at a more civilized time?
Yeah,
they did it for a while, but then our own gardeners start bloody early as well. It's like
I'd say I think starting in the far end where there aren't any houses or flats would work, and then you work your way slowly back. But I would say certainly 8 o'clock would be too early. I'm usually up, so it actually makes no difference. Argument, if I was younger, then it probably would.
To be fair, their argument was, well, you chose to live next to a golf course,
right? That's what they said.
But you probably don't think about lawn mowing at 5 a.m. in the morning when you're purchasing a flat.
No. But what about those leaf blowers or leaf suckers? They're annoying. That's so loud.
Yes.
So loud, and it's a pointless exercise. Just sweep.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, we have next door to us. Our neighbour has a dog, and they just leave him outside in the evening on the other side of the scale late at night, and you can be trying to go to bed 10:30, 11 o'clock. This dog's just yapping away.
No.
And they just leave it.
So you use a leaf blower against the dog.
It would blow it away. It's not very big. That might be all the sucker. Might be better.
Try it.
No, it's bad though, isn't it? People should be more aware, I think. But it's interesting to work out what a time should be, if there actually could be like a law.
Well, it's 11 till 7, isn't it? In law.
Is it?
Yeah.
There is a law.
11 p.m. to 7 a.m. You can't sort of have noise outside of that.
Okay.
So
you have it
theoretically,
in Spain
that's
as well.
in the UK, so I don't know.
And here as well.
So loads of people are breaking the law then.
Yeah. There are municipal differences, I think, but like for example, Estepona, if I'm not mistaken, which is where we are, I think it's from midnight until 8 a.m. You can't make noise that would disturb your neighbours.
Okay, so people break the law all the time.
Oh, absolutely.
So the lawn mowing, apart from the golf course, seems to be fine.
And for example, it's interesting because, well, the golf course breaks loads of laws, but I think they're sort of quite well connected, let's say, with the town hall.
Yes.
Because they're bringing a lot of business. But have you noticed now, for example, almost if you go to any kind of, like I was at a charity event not long ago, and we used to have those, like in the summer, they're outdoors, and then you have live music and so on, they go on till 1, 2 a.m. No, now they have to finish at midnight.
Really?
Even in big hotels, they have to absolutely finish at midnight. They cannot have any music outdoors.
Wow.
They can move it indoors, but it has to be low volume. Because otherwise the hotel would get fined.
Gosh, so
And
that's
it's
really
made
strict
organising
now.
events very difficult.
Yeah.
Well, would do here because
Yeah.
it starts so late.
Yeah, we start, and you can't start earlier because it's so hot. So I remember this one from Collective Calling. We started at like 8 o'clock, normal time, even 7:30 with cocktails, and 8:30 you have sit-down dinner, which for Spain is still early.
Yeah.
And by the time you finish dinner, it's like 11, and then you have got the raffle and the auction and so on. Then it's over, and people say, "Okay, when's the music starting?" Oh no, it's finished.
Saves the dancing
no.
It's
perfect.
sad, isn't it?
Percy
It
saves
is.
you dancing. Saves you dancing. Look on the bright side.
Oh, that's a shame, though. I
Yeah.
don't know when did that start, because it wasn't like that a few years ago. I don't know when.
The law was there, I think, but they got stricter with it. And a lot of these things I've noticed have changed since COVID.
COVID, yeah.
The other thing, like in a lot of restaurants now, you go in at 10:30, 11. Oh, kitchen's closed. In
that's
Spain,
bad.
that's unusual.
Yeah.
Definitely. There's a piece here I like. I always read these when they interview various celebrities. They could be a comedian, an author, a TV personality. This is Ellie Taylor, who's a comedian, actor and writer. And they're always asked, what is the one lesson that they've learned from life? And I always find it interesting, the things that they choose. And she said, it's okay to show off. She said, when I was growing up, showing off was seen as a bad thing. I was always silly, but as a kid, you're told, stop showing off, and she's such an attention seeker. That used to happen to me as well. But she said that she kind of always knew that she loved performing, she loved dancing, singing, jumping around, doing gymnastics, all that kind of stuff. And then obviously she grew up, and that's what she wanted to do. So it's become her career because she's become a comedian. And she just kind of says, children shouldn't be told to stop showing off. If they want to express themselves in a performance way, then that's obviously what they enjoy doing, and we should let them and encourage them, as opposed to telling them to keep still and stop showing off.
Quite British, isn't it? Not to show. I mean, like if you're an American or something, they're sort of quite
Probably.
what we would just call brash. But I guess it's show off and always have a little bit of humility as well, that if someone sort of helps you out and trying to help you be better, then accept it. But practice. Practice makes perfect. If you're good at something, jump around. I don't know.
It's a shame that children can be, called a show off when they're just
Being kids.
expressing themselves. Yeah, exactly. Because it can have a huge impact on you, and it could make a child that's outgoing and a natural performer. It could make them the other way. It could make them feel really self-conscious and go inside themselves, which would be a shame.
Yeah.
Oh, definitely. I think it's interesting, because initially I understood showing off as more in the sense of showing off in a material sense, showing off what you've got.
Okay, yeah.
So if we're talking about this, because we're living now in an age of showing off, right? Everybody is, if you take social media, Instagram, influencers and so on, they make a living of showing off, even when they don't have anything to show off. Children, if you look at them, like up to the ages of 6, 7 generally, or sometimes up to 10, but then it usually dims, doesn't it? Small children are vast majority, they're very outgoing. They're not introverts. We become introverts. We learn to become introverts. And it's the influence of people around us who tell us, be quiet, don't do this, don't do that, be careful, don't trust people, don't trust that man, don't do this, don't do, just no.
Yeah.
And when of course it's necessary to some extent to survive in this world, which isn't always friendly, but when you see the unbridled enthusiasm in small, I would say 100% of children up to the ages of 6, 7 are able to are actors, are born performers, are born dancers, are born singers, they can do anything.
Yeah, they love messing
They can
around,
do anything. And if you just give them the tools or give them some tips of how they can do this better, they will become good at it. They're malleable like that. Then, of course, you have a combination of things. You've got the development of the brain changes radically at around 10 years of age. But it is just the influence, obviously, of school, parents, being forced into a more rigid discipline, which to some extent is necessary if we want to survive. I'm not discussing that, but we lose that. And more so, we begin to fear that because we're being told we're not good at it or we shouldn't do it. I do a lot of public speaking, as you know. Public speaking, the fear of public speaking, which most people have, small children don't have it.
No.
I was 6 years old. I was asked at random. We were in Austria at the time, I think, and it was like, we have this. There was an event, and they said, would you like to get up and open the event? And
at the age of 6.
Because I was, but because I was very confident, and I spoke 3 languages, and that they found it impressive. They said, okay. I got up there. I had no nerves whatsoever.
Yeah.
If you'd asked me a few years later, I would have died of embarrassment until I spent years and years and years of unlearning that fear again.
But interesting when you say about school, because I know our kids at school, they are encouraged to stand up and do stuff, whether it be presentation, acting, music, in front of the school. And actually, when my son went to have an interview with his next school, he had to give a presentation, and everybody in the presentation did it from their desk, and he stood up and walked to the front to do it, and the head teacher went, you can do it from sitting down if you like, and he goes, no, it's fine, I'll stand up and do it. So like you say, the surround, the environment that the child is brought up in does have a massive effect. And if they're encouraged to, and if there's no, like all these things, you're not born with any fear of anything either, are you? That comes from something else. So it's the environment you're in, and if you're told that standing on a stage is nerve-wracking, then your mind tells you it's nerve-wracking, whereas if you just do it, then then you lose it. I mean, it's the same sort of my work with television. I remember the first time I presented on TV. I mean, honestly, my diaphragm was somewhere near my Adam's apple. I couldn't breathe one iota. And I just fixated on the lens going in and out as they started, changing the camera thing. I was like, just, couldn't work out what was going on. Then after a while, you just you realise actually it doesn't matter. You make a mistake. It doesn't matter because things happen. Mistakes always happen.
What I find very interesting is when you start breaking these fears down and you start analysing what it actually is that you're afraid of. Because you're not afraid of public speaking, or you're not afraid of being on TV. These are like, there are many components. And once you become aware of them, and they differ from person to person, but ultimately it all boils down to we're afraid to be judged. We're afraid to making a fool of ourselves, which is pretty much the same thing. We're afraid, in terms of speaking especially, or acting, or wherever you're on stage and you have something to say, we're afraid of getting stuck and forgetting what we're going to say. That is the worst one. Again, not so much because of the actual thing, but because we will look stupid. It's our ego that's afraid. And small children don't have that because they don't have a concept of ego yet. They learn it.
Names are the worst. I remember doing something on Sky, and I was introducing the MC, and I said his first name, and his second name completely went from my mind. I couldn't remember what his name was, so I just made it up.
That's brilliant.
Because I've got to say something. I can't just go Pete. I've got to come up with a surname. So I said the surname. After he came up to me, he goes, what was that? I said, I'm really sorry, I just completely forgot.
That's brilliant.
So I've just got to say something.
Yeah. Oh, brilliant. He didn't mind then?
No.
Oh, that's good. Yeah, it's true. We are human. We do make mistakes. And I think a lot of the time, people, I think both in public speaking, in acting, in radio, in television, so many of these things, when you make a mistake, the audience actually like and appreciate it.
Yes, absolutely.
And it's all how you handle it.
Yeah.
If you can
half the time they won't even notice.
Well, yeah.
But that's
exactly.
the other thing. Yes, that's
more,
the fascinating
more than
thing.
half the time. One of the most useful things I learned when I started to train some, speaking in public, was one of the first things that I was told is, don't say sorry when you make a mistake.
Don't highlight
because you're
it.
drawing attention. You're highlighting.
Don't
it.
highlight the mistake.
Most of the time, people don't even realise. I mean, if it's very obvious, yes, or you just correct it, you move on. But sometimes it's even better not to. If you misspeak something, just move on. Just move on.
Yeah.
Yes, never highlight it.
Yeah.
Just carry on regardless.
Exactly.
We better take a break.
Go on then.
This is Talk Radio Europe.
Hannah Murray on TRE in the afternoon.
Good afternoon. You're listening to Men Talk with me in the studio today, Charlie Broom and Percy Rowland. There's an article here talking about calorie counting. I thought, I'll save this for the women. And then I thought, no, I'm interested to see the men's thoughts on this. Calorie counts on menus may make us guilty enough to pass on the dish we really want in favour of something seemingly healthier. But mulling over the numbers could be a waste of time, as restaurant dishes often contain more than double the calories stated on menus. Rules brought in last year compelled food outlets to declare on their menus the number of calories in their meals. This is obviously a UK thing, but they say the calorie counts on menus are often widely inaccurate. Have you noticed this being a thing in the UK, Charlie? Do you see calories on menus and stuff?
I don't actually. I mean, when I go to a restaurant, I wouldn't choose something over something else because of the calorie. I'd be
You
more.
wouldn't even look.
I'd be. I think, as we were saying before we came on air, if I go to the supermarket and I buy something, I might look at the saturated fat / sugars content, but I wouldn't look at the calorie because, that's just something that doesn't occur to me.
No.
So,
I think it's quite pathetic if people need to have everything spelled out.
the thing is,
What's next? You need to fill in a form in the restaurant, signing off responsibility that you understand. It's like when you're on a website, you accept the cookies. It's like you're now in a coffee shop.
What are the calories on the cookies?
Yes,
What
you
are
have
the
to
calories
sign
then?
off. I accept that these cookies contain so much fat and so much sugar, and I accept the responsibility for my health. And I sign. Come on, we're getting to.
The thing is, when you go out for dinner, you go to a restaurant, don't you go to have fun then? You don't go to sit there and go, get the calculator out and work it out. I don't know. Unless you're out every night, in which case you probably need to.
I mean, if you're, I guess, if you are watching your diet and you are counting calories, then it's an extremely useful tool. But
when you just get fish and vegetables.
Well, yeah, exactly. We all know
You don't need
to
to
a
count-
certain extent.
You don't need to
Calories,
count calories. You look at the size of it, and you know more or less how your body works, and that's it. I mean, I think people overcomplicate it. Plus, calories doesn't really tell you much because you can eat. If let's say your guideline is what you need 2,000 calories a day, well, you can eat 10 Mars bars or something, and you probably reach that. But you've meet your calorie target, but
your sugar and
your
your fat,
diet is still atrocious, and you're going to die of all kinds of diseases.
I've had a message here saying menus should be more clear. I used calorie counting and deficit for 6 months and lost 15 kilograms. Wow. But it should be accurately shown. What should be more shown is allergens, and all waiters and waitresses should be trained on every dish rather than say, I don't know. Yeah, I think that's true.
Yeah, although that involves a lot of investment in your waiters and waitresses. I'd rather someone told me they didn't know and go and find out than say something that they didn't understand. But I mean, it's an interesting one, and everyone, like we said, is going to be different. Calorie counting wouldn't work for me as much, but it would be, as I said, saturated fats or sugars in a supermarket, in a restaurant. It wouldn't occur to me.
No, we should just enjoy when we're in a restaurant, I suppose. Depends how often going out for dinner, I guess. 9-minute key to friendship. Again, I thought this was a female one, so I thought it would be fascinating to ask you guys. In the hustle and bustle of everyday life, it can be hard to maintain close friendships, but just 9 minutes a day, just over an hour a week, could be the key to preventing people drifting from their best friends. 9 minutes of interaction, which includes digital communication, can sustain the friendship. I thought this was an interesting one for guys. How much, time and effort you put into
Do you want my honest answer?
your friendships.
I mean, my best mates I can not talk to for months at a time.
Yeah.
And I'll call them and it's
Totally fine. Which is great, and that's the sign of a proper friendship, I think.
Yeah.
There is
maybe if it's newer friendships and you're meeting people for the first, I don't know. I'm not sure about that at all.
Yeah, I'm thinking about it. I think in my case, it depends to a certain extent on whether they are, because we live, especially I think if you're living here, you tend to have friends in different countries. And I think many of us, especially let's say sort of our generation and younger, we tend to have, we've spent our lives in multiple places maybe, and we have friends in multiple countries. So it can get tricky to actually, I know that, for example, I have a group of friends in the Netherlands who I would be a lot more in contact with if I lived there or if they lived here. But as we live in different countries, but then they tell me, no, we also don't talk all the time. We live in the same country, but we've got busy lives, and we also,
so you don't find yourself thinking, I must message so and so.
But I think we're coming from a different. So we didn't grow up with mobile phones. We grew up, with landlines. So there was no email.
Yeah.
So there wasn't this constant feel to be in contact with someone. You would see someone, then you wouldn't see them, and then you would see them again. You're not constantly trying to be in contact all the time.
Absolutely.
But I think social media has really messed it up because it gives you the illusion that you're in touch with people. Just the fact that, and this is really, I see the distinction now. So, for example, people who use social media a lot or people who don't use social media a lot. These friends, for example, that I'm referring to, they kind of, in the last 2-3 years, most of them have almost stopped using. They post very occasionally, they post a story on Instagram. That's it. They don't really post much. So I don't really know what's going on. And I have to message them, or we've got a group chat, but which is mainly used for dirty jokes, but
that's contact.
That is contact. Close contact. but no, then you've got others, and if you do use social media a lot, and you see them all the time, and it gives you the illusion, because or at least you think you know what's going on in their lives, because they're constantly posting, and sometimes even you comment something, but actually you haven't spoken in a year.
No.
Right? And so I think it's I think in many ways social media has actually made us less social.
But definitely 100%.
And not just the usual thing that people talk about, that people are on their phones instead of talking to each other, that too. But I guess it helped for when people, especially, I think the one way in which social media helps to be more social is, let's say, actually, ironically, for the older generation, to stay in touch with their children, their grandchildren, family members and so on, if they're a little bit isolated. Even, I would say, my mum, who lives 5 minutes from me, but we don't see each other that often because, we've got our own lives. But she is my most active follower on social media, and we, to some extent, she has an idea of what I'm up to.
Yeah.
And I see what she's posting, and I can make a comment, and so we have a little bit of contact. So
which is nice.
I think, but otherwise, it gives you the illusion that you're in contact, and you don't pick up the phone anymore to actually ask, hey, how are you? I haven't heard from you in a long time. Are you well?
It's different. I mean, it depends how you look at it, because in one way it's a really positive thing, the fact that you can share photos and comment and see what each other are up to, so you can look at that as a real positive, or you can say it's a negative because maybe you're speaking to them less. But in reality, if you weren't using social media, would you be picking up the phone to your mates every few days? Would you? That's exactly.
No. But I don't think that you have to have that regular contact to maintain a friendship. Then again, it also depends what level of friendship you have. Is it you can only be very close friends with maybe 3-4 people maximum, I think. You can't be close friends. You've got different layers.
Yeah.
And then also it obviously changes with age, whether we like it or not. I mean, the thing is, I think our friends are, our closest people, once pretty much all of them are single, or at least half of them are single. Once they're all coupled up, and especially once they start having their own families and so on, it drifts apart. It just happens.
Naturally does.
Yeah.
So the friendship is still there, but it evolves.
Okay, let's go dating. Sharing a cosy evening at the cinema has been a traditional first date for generations of couples, but it seems that today's new lovers are instead opting for less obviously romantic alternatives, such as axe throwing or bungee jumping.
At each other?
What happens if it goes wrong?
That sounds
if it's not going well, that's an easy out.
Yes.
Paintballing, crazy golf, things like that. So,
I haven't been on a first date for about 16 years, so I'm not sure. That said, my brother-in-law is constantly dating, and there was a lot of sort of walks and coffees with him as their initial dates, and I think we had a conversation with him about trying different things, and then he went off on one, so I switched off because he keeps going, and I sort of lose interest. But I mean, I guess I think the article was going to say it's a real sort of icebreaker, isn't it? If you're doing something, it can be quite nerve-wracking, I guess, for people. If you go meeting in a bar and someone's late or whatever, you feel a bit self-conscious and you're nervous as it is. Maybe what happens if you're rubbish at golf and the other person's really good? I could hit you with an axe.
I can't imagine doing something like that on a first date. I think the first date should be a coffee or a drink or something, and then so you can see if you've got a natural conversation flow between you, if there's a spark there, and if those two things are in place, then I think it will be fun to do something a bit quirky and a bit different, but not on the first date.
Yeah, no, I agree. I mean, if you're a serial dater, that would be very, very expensive, wouldn't it?
Yeah, exactly.
And potentially dangerous.
Well,
but I also think cinema's a bad date.
Cinema's a rubbish date.
Because you're not going to chat to them.
The whole point of going to a date is so you get to know someone.
Exactly.
Sit there for 2 hours and have to do the old stretch.
Yeah, exactly. You have to do the stretch with the arm round. I remember that.
Is that what you did? Or
I remember hoping for a yawn.
But come on, that wasn't a first date, was it? Was that a first date? That wasn't a first. There you go. You see.
No, it wasn't a first date. No, it's true. We need to go on a break.
TRE.
Talk Radio Europe. Hannah Murray. TRE in the afternoon.
Good afternoon. You are listening to Men Talk. With me in the studio today, Charlie Broom and Percy Rowland. We were talking about being on your phones earlier, and which Percy's doing right now. And there is an article with the headline, How Phubbing Can Wreck Your Marriage. Phubbing. Phubbing. Never heard that word before.
I thought it was something rude.
I know, it sounds it. We are often told that we are too attached to our mobile phones, and now researchers have warned that it could be damaging our love lives. A study conducted into the effects of phubbing, which means snubbing others for your phone, found that married couples who engage in the practice have lower levels of satisfaction in their relationships. When individuals perceive that their romantic partners are phubbing more frequently, they feel more conflict and less intimacy in the relationship. People should be mindful about being present with their loved ones to show that they care and put their phone away. So, Percy, Mr. Phubber. Mr. Phubber. That's a good song. Come on, come on.
I'm just thinking, my relationship is built on phone use, basically. We are equally bad. And we spend a lot of time during the day texting each other, just any kind of stupid joke or whatever comes up. But sometimes we're even we can sit next to each other on the phone, and then suddenly we will send each other things. Yes.
Oh, you'll send next to each other.
Yeah.
Really?
No, but look, this is look at this cute cat video. Oh, it's another one.
But you wouldn't just show them; you'd send it.
Have a look at this, love.
Yeah.
Well, sometimes it can be fun, or if it's a joke, or if it's something really ridiculous, to just watch the reaction. You said it, open it, what is this? Oh, God.
Yeah.
It can be fun. No, but...
So do you think as long as you're on the same page, whether you're a phubber or not, as long as you're on the same page, then it's okay? As in, if you're both using your phones, then nobody's offended.
That's the key to pretty much anything, isn't it? It's like you've got to have the same sort of...
level of whatever it is.
Whatever, on anything, be it axe throwing or phone throwing. No, but I think, certainly us, we're aware that we're both, our level of phone addiction is worrying. And I started putting a timer on my phone on a lot of things.
Okay.
So, and you can do that on individual apps if you're overusing them. You put them on a timer, and it after you say you limit your use to half an hour, for example, a day, and then.
Just go on and change.
You've got 5
and then go and change the
You've
settings.
got 5 minutes. Yes. Oh, I keep doing that. But it's
working well then.
But at least I feel guilty about it.
Naughty boy. Right. Anyway, where was I?
Yeah. So, I mean, do you think that if you weren't using your phone so much, you would talk to each other or engage
God forbid. God forbid.
Yeah, exactly.
Talk. Yeah.
Exactly.
No, but we do both.
Okay.
Yeah, I have with 2 young kids with phones. Drives me crackers. Drives me crackers. Screen deafness.
Yeah.
When you keep asking the same question over and over again.
Oh, because they're not really listening.
What do you mean, really? Just not listening?
Not listening at all.
Yes, quite right.
Okay.
That's the worst part, though, isn't it? It really. I've noticed. I've always been someone who's easily distracted, and I've never been diagnosed with anything, but I'm pretty sure I've sort of somewhere on ADHD spectrum. It's just I've never thought about it because I thought it's normal until I realized that a lot of people don't get easily distracted by things. I always did, but I have noticed definitely in the last 5-6 years it has increased. Like my level of my ability to focus on anything has gone down dramatically.
Okay.
And it is, of course, this is the ultimate distraction device and the weapon of mass distraction. And, you're doing this, and the fact that you can do absolutely anything on it. When I was a kid, anytime I had an idea, like, I wanted to know about something, I was incredibly curious about everything. We had a huge encyclopedia in the in the living room, and I would sneak in and I would get the encyclopedia and I would read about it, and I would get distracted on the way. And I learned so many things that way. Now I do it on Wikipedia, but there's a difference between physically having to get up from your sofa or wherever you are, grab the book, read the book, put it back, pick up another book, or do something else. Or there's a TV. That was sort of when I was growing up. I could read a book and watch the TV at the same time. But now I have everything in my hand.
You never need to go
anywhere. And at the same time, I've got the TV and Netflix on. So it's we're setting ourselves up for being permanently distracted.
I think, like you say, the attention span though drops dramatically because you're literally.
And it's designed that way. So, for example, now if you open it, it's getting worse and worse. If you're opening any, let's say Instagram, for example. Instagram's a good example. You open Instagram, you see something, and the moment you see it, it refreshes the feed. The moment you open it.
Yeah.
So that you now say, oh, hang on, I saw that, I want to see this.
Yes.
You start scrolling. Right? And that is all designed to make you more addicted. And
it's not good, is it? It's not healthy.
No.
It's not at all. This is a really bizarre one about relationships. My 7 rules to have you back. The weirdest thing I thought about this was the fact that it had made the papers, and I kind of thought, well, how did they get hold of this information?
Bad news day.
Yeah. Emmerdale actress Amy's tough ultimatum to cheating husband. So this guy cheated on his wife, and she said, in order to for us to carry on being together, she set this list of rules, which for some reason is printed in the paper. And I just thought they were quite kind of bizarre rules. Some of them made sense, but some were a bit over the top. So you must have no contact with the woman that he went with at any time for any reason. Okay. If you are working away from home, you must check in via FaceTime. Well, that seems like a weird kind of thing that you must do. Surely they would want to speak to each other on FaceTime and say hello and whatever. We must have full access to each other's phones at all times. Alarm bells. That one I kind of thought.
If you distrust each other that much, why are you together?
Yeah, that's the whole point, isn't it?
Exactly. Trust is a... Yeah, I think it's very odd. The whole
you either accept it, forgive and move on, or you don't, and say, look, whatever you've got is still there. You can still appreciate each other, but it's clearly not a relationship anymore.
No.
Yeah, I'm not sure that's
I think checking each other's phones is a really bad thing.
Yeah. No, I'm not sure that one's going to last too long. Sorry to hear about that breakdown.
And the thing about, she says, every 7 days we go on a date together. Every 7 weeks we go away for the night. Every 7 months, there's the two of us go away on holiday. Yeah, they're obviously approaching the 7-year itch, so she's like firming it. But no, I think that's very difficult to be so rigid in. It should be it's great to say we should spend more time together and make arrangements, but for it to be so rigid, I think, is unrealistic and kind of takes the romance out of it all.
Well, there's no romance.
I think that's kind of gone anyway, isn't it?
Yeah, sounds like it.
Yeah.
Okay. One more, and then we better take the last break.
Go on then.
Forget algebra or playing the recorder. Most of us would prefer to have been taught real-world skills at school, such as changing a car tyre or applying for a mortgage. More than half of those quizzed in this poll said the skills they learnt in the classroom had not helped them in later life. The 4 least useful things people said they'd studied at school were algebra, the Pythagoras theorem, using a Bunsen burner, and how to throw a javelin. Learning the plays of William Shakespeare was deemed useless, as were dissecting an animal and reciting the periodic table. 9 out of 10 Britons surveyed said they believed students would instead benefit from being taught how to buy a house, set up a private pension, pay household bills, and start a business.
Why do you need to be taught how to pay a bill? No, but I do agree with this. I think there are more practical things that could be taught. As a landlord being phoned up by a tenant saying, can you come and change a light bulb? That's quite infuriating. I mean, it's not that hard to change a light bulb. And I think there is a lot less financial awareness when you come out of school of how to save for the future and things like that. So I definitely think there are things that could be done. But then again, also parents should stand in and help there as well. It's not just down to the school.
No.
So yeah, it's interesting. But we do part of a group on Facebook, and they've just started releasing a book to help children understand wealth and talking about properties and pensions and how to set things
brilliant.
up. Yeah,
that's a great
idea. Called Wealth Builders. It's
a really good idea. There's so many things like that I think children could benefit from. I was talking about this with my dad the other day, and I remember being a child and looking at my parents and thinking, when I'm an adult, I'll know about mortgages and taxes and all this kind of. You just kind of, when you're young, you just kind of assume that when I'm older, I'll understand what they're talking about when it comes to money and things like that. And it doesn't just automatically happen. Somebody has to explain it to you, and whether it's parents or teachers at school, if nobody does, then you don't just automatically know these things. And there's so much
things
more
like changing plugs. And things like that.
Exactly. Changing plugs, changing light bulbs, all that kind of stuff. Yeah, my dad showed me those things. We didn't learn that.
Going to sit down with the kids. This is here. Green wire goes here.
Yeah.
Brown wire, blue wire. Sometimes you don't have a blue wire.
Oh,
don't panic. You haven't been sold a dud light.
I have no idea what you're talking about.
There you go.
No, it's true though, isn't it?
But it's interesting. I mean, my experience is totally different because I was homeschooled, and I learned a lot of things I wouldn't have learned in school, and I didn't learn a lot of things I would have learned at school, and sometimes I feel like I've missed out. Only sometimes. But it's very interesting because my father went to school. I mean, he was much older and he was German, and he went to school in the early. I think first year he went to school was 1930 or 31. And this was a still fairly new thing that you had to, the first 3 or 4 years of school, you had to go to a state school where it was a great leveler. So you had children from all backgrounds together. And basically you were taught, there were only 3 teachers. There was a music teacher, sports teacher, like PE, and one teacher who taught everything else. And that one teacher who taught everything else was absolutely incredible. And a lot of kids from poorer backgrounds would finish school at that point and then go off and do a traineeship to become a plumber or an electrician or whatever trade they were taking up or whatever else they do. And then obviously let's say the posher kids would go, after that they would go to a so-called gymnasium, which is a secondary school, and depending on which one they would learn Latin and all that stuff. And he always told, he remembered this one day where the teacher came in with a check. And he held up a check, and these are 9-year-old kids, and he held up a check and explained, and in those days checks were very important. This was how all big payments were made. He explained exactly how you fill in a check correctly, what different types of checks there are, and so on and so forth. And for my father, this was nothing new because he came from a family where he was helping out especially during the summer holidays in the office, and they were they had a company where this was daily stuff. But for all those kids, we've never seen that, and and they learned all these things. They learned a lot of practical things as well. And I don't think this kind of thing exists anymore. No. I thought it was incredible. And he always said he learned 99% of what he knew in those 3 or 4 years at that school, and in life, basically.
Yeah.
And all those years at, let's say, higher education were pretty much a waste of time.
Yeah, it's a shame, isn't it? Because teachers' hands are tied. It's not down to the teachers; they have curriculums to follow. I just wish that the people setting the curriculums could kind of change things about a bit, because somebody makes the decisions. It's certainly not the teachers, unfortunately, but they could.
But again, though, I mean, as I say, it goes back to parents being invested as well in their children.
Yeah,
So.
Yeah, no, absolutely.
But I think the problem is, I mean, a lot of education still, it goes back to the humanist ideal of, we should know a lot about our history, especially our classic history. This is why for centuries it was expected to learn at least basic Latin and Greek or something, because this is where our civilization comes from. That is, it started in 1700, something like that this became the standard. So it's all about learning the classics, learning all the sciences and so on. And on the other hand, should education actually prepare us for the real world and the practical world? And I think it's dangerous to go too far in either extreme, because if we make school really just about learning life skills, okay, we'll be good at paying the mortgage and paying this, but we're going to mentally be very poor, because we have absolutely no idea about where we're coming from. We have no idea about culture. We have no idea about Shakespeare or anything. And unfortunately, there's already a lot of people who are at that stage. Who would know absolutely nothing about anything that was before the year they were born, basically, in terms of cultural level or history or anything like that. And this is old cliche, but if you don't know about your history, you're doomed to repeat it. And obviously you lead a very poor existence if you don't know about. There was a very good article recently about classical music being seen, as the preserve of the rich and a very elitist thing, and how it was making the case how, for example, classical music should be taught and should be made very accessible from an early age to all children, because it's be proven, what it does for your brain development, what it does for you, and just it brings joy. It's it broadens your horizons. And if you ask any rock musician, going back to the Beatles and to anyone, they started off studying classical music, and that's how they were able to write the songs they wrote. So I think we have to find a balance.
Yes, definitely. Like most things in life.
Indeed.
Yes.
Like calories, even.
Like calories and talking and ad breaks.
Talk Radio Europe.
Hannah Murray, TRE in the afternoon.
Good afternoon. You're listening to Men Talk with me in the studio, Charlie Broom and Percy Rowland. We've got literally just a couple of minutes left. There's an article here that says a mum has been fined hundreds of pounds for taking her kids on holiday during term time, but is determined to keep doing it. Rachel Smith says she's saved £10,000 on unauthorised trips away with her kids by avoiding bumped up school holiday prices, a sum which far outstrips the fine she receives upon her return. Acceptable or not?
Well, as I have kids, I'll jump in. I always used to think I'd never do it, and have done it. It does save. I mean, the fine that she's getting there is £60 a time, isn't it?
Yeah, £60 fine for the child.
If you're saving 1,500 quid on your trip and someone's fining you for 60 quid, then you're going to do it.
Yeah.
The only way you're not to stop people doing it is if the fine far outweighs the saving. So, I mean, I've done it, but we've only ever done it like a sort of day before the end of term or 2 days before the end of term, not sort of in the middle of term.
No, so it wouldn't be a week in the middle of term.
I wouldn't do a week in the middle of term.
Do people do that in the kids' schools? Does it happen?
So I think I think it was when they had the end of term on like a Wednesday or a Tuesday, people used to just go on the Friday before and just miss the last 2 days of term, and then they try to push it back to the end of the week. People do do it. Yeah. I think it does. It does. I mean, if like you've heard in the article, I mean, you can save thousands of pounds. So I mean, why wouldn't you? I mean,
so people do it for like a whole week in the middle of term time then?
No. We would be towards the end of term or around the half term.
Okay, so people wouldn't take it.
Not where my kids go to school.
No, interesting.
So
it's a weird one. Yes, I kind of don't remember from when I was at school. I don't think we did, but I don't think.
But I think more people travel now, don't they? So and But like all these things, it's supply and demand, isn't it? And when
The
when you
prices
go-
can be extortionate.
Oh, yeah.
Can't they? I mean,
Yeah,
it
yeah,
really
yeah.
is crazy.
But couldn't it be an issue for the children if when they miss out on
Well,
a
exactly.
week? You know, are
That's
they
the
not
issue,
losing?
isn't it?
Then they'll struggle to catch up because I presume they're doing things in order.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And the show is now coming to a close. Thank you both very much for coming on the show
Thanks for
today.
having
You've
us.
both been brilliant. Charlie Broom and Percy Rowland. Thank you.
You've been listening to a TRE production. If you've enjoyed this programme, there'll be another episode waiting for you next week, right here on this platform, where you can also access our extensive back catalogue of shows and interviews. For more information on our live programming, social media channels and apps, and how to contact Talk Radio Europe, please visit tre.radio.